when your muscles quietly disappear. A story I'll never forget. I still remember that autumn afternoon when Mrs. Linda, a 72-year-old patient, slowly walked into my clinic. Her legs trembled, and her eyes carried a quiet sadness. "Doctor, I don't understand. Lately, I've been feeling weak. It's hard just to stand up from a chair, and I can barely take a few steps without holding onto the wall. I eat normally. I don't have any illnesses, but why does my body feel like it's fading away?" I paused for a moment. That question, I've heard it hundreds, maybe thousands of times over the past 20 years working with older adults. And every time, my heart sinks a little, knowing the answer doesn't lie in any specific disease. It lies in a silent thief named sarcopenia, the progressive loss of muscle mass due to aging. The most heartbreaking part? Sarcopenia gives no warning. It doesn't hurt. You don't get a fever. There are no rashes or coughs. It quietly takes away your strength. One step, one chair rise, one stair at a time, until it steals what is most precious to every senior: independence. But here's the good news. This is not a life sentence. In my 2 decades as a physician, I've seen what most would call miracles. 85-year-old men learning to walk again after a fall, 70-year-old women regaining the ability to climb stairs, thanks to one simple but powerful change: how they eat. Yes, nutrition, something we often take for granted, turns out to be the most powerful medicine for keeping your body strong, your muscles intact, and your later years fulfilling. In this article, I want to take you with me, not just as a doctor, but as a caring guide. Together, we'll explore why your muscles may be disappearing without your knowledge, what sarcopenia really is, and why it's more dangerous than people think. And most importantly, the 13 foods, simple, accessible, scientifically proven, that can help rebuild muscle mass, even if you're 70, 80, or beyond. But this isn't just theory. I'll share with you real patient stories, clinical insights, and valuable life lessons I believe every person over 60 should know for themselves and their loved ones. Because I truly believe getting older doesn't mean getting weaker. Aging can be a time of strength if we know how to care for ourselves in the smallest, most consistent ways. 2. Understanding sarcopenia, the silent thief of muscle. Throughout my 20 years working in geriatric hospitals and clinics, there's one word I've found myself repeating to patients and their families over and over again: sarcopenia. It sounds like a complicated medical term, and in a way, it is, but for millions of people over the age of 60, it's the name of a quiet nightmare they don't even realize they're living. What is sarcopenia? Sarcopenia is the medical term for the gradual loss of muscle mass and strength that comes with age. This process often begins silently after the age of 50 and accelerates after 60 if left unaddressed. Unlike heart disease or diabetes, sarcopenia doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't cause pain, fevers, or show up in basic lab tests. But one day you might find standing up from a chair is suddenly harder. Climbing stairs feels like climbing a mountain. You start fearing a fall, and then one day you actually do fall. These aren't just signs of getting a little older. They're warnings that your muscles are quietly being stripped away day by day. Why is sarcopenia dangerous? Muscles aren't just for walking, lifting, or climbing. Muscle mass plays a central role in regulating your blood pressure, managing blood sugar, maintaining balance, and protecting your internal organs. When you lose muscle, you're not just getting weaker. You become more likely to fall, to break bones, to recover more slowly, and to face conditions like diabetes, metabolic disorders, even cognitive decline. A study from Harvard revealed adults over 60 can lose up to 33% of their muscle mass, even if they eat well and appear healthy. The frightening part? Most people don't even realize it until it's already taken a heavy toll. A true story: the old man and the kitchen stool. I once treated a 74-year-old gentleman, cheerful, healthy, and fond of his daily walks. One day, he slipped, not outdoors, not on stairs, but simply trying to get up from a small kitchen stool. He didn't break any bones, thankfully, but after that day, he no longer felt confident walking alone. Tests revealed severe loss of thigh and core muscle strength, classic signs of stage 2 sarcopenia. He ate well, didn't have any major illness, but he lacked quality protein and essential micronutrients for muscle maintenance. That small fall turned out to be a big wake-up call. In the next part, I'll walk you through the specific foods that science has shown can reactivate muscle protein synthesis, reduce chronic inflammation, and fight back against the slow destruction of sarcopenia. These aren't miracle foods, but they represent nutritional science, clinical experience, and most importantly, real hope for anyone who wants to stay strong and independent as they age. 3. Greek yogurt, the nighttime protein secret that helps your muscles rebuild while you sleep. If there's one food that's easy to eat, easy to combine, and backed by science as a silent guardian of your muscles at night, it's Greek yogurt. In my practice with older adults, I often emphasize the importance of not just eating well at breakfast and lunch, but also paying special attention to dinner, and especially to what you eat before bed. Here's what most people don't realize. While you sleep, your body doesn't rest. It repairs, restores, and rebuilds. But if it lacks the raw materials, especially protein, those processes can stall or even shut down. And Greek yogurt is one of the most powerful foods to support that nighttime rebuilding. Why is Greek yogurt better than regular yogurt? Greek yogurt is made by straining out the liquid whey, resulting in a thicker texture and double the protein compared to regular yogurt. Just 170 grams, about 6 ounces, can provide 18 to 20 grams of protein, most of which is casein, a slow-digesting protein. That means when you eat Greek yogurt in the evening, casein gradually releases amino acids into your bloodstream over the next 6 to 8 hours, providing a steady fuel source to your muscles while you sleep. And for older adults, that's a game changer. Muscles at night, your body's hidden recovery window. One of the key things I tell my senior patients is this: your body needs more time, more support, and more nutrients to recover as you age. And sleep is your body's golden opportunity to do that. But if you go to bed after skipping dinner or only having a light snack with no protein, your body doesn't have the tools it needs to rebuild. The result? You wake up a little weaker each morning. A small bowl of Greek yogurt before bed, perhaps with chia seeds, blueberries, or a drizzle of raw honey, can become a powerful muscle recovery meal that's light on digestion but rich in benefit. Greek yogurt, more than just protein. There's so much more to this superfood. Calcium, vitamin D, and phosphorus to strengthen bones that support healthy muscles. Probiotics to support gut health, improve nutrient absorption, and reduce chronic inflammation, which plays a big role in age-related muscle loss. Low sugar, when you choose plain versions, great for those with diabetes or those watching their weight. Tips for using Greek yogurt effectively. Always choose plain, unsweetened Greek yogurt to avoid added sugars. Pair it with fiber or healthy fats like walnuts, flax seeds, or avocado for an extra muscle-boosting effect. Use it 3 to 4 times per week, ideally before bed or after gentle exercise like walking, yoga, or Tai Chi. A patient's story. The nighttime yogurt that changed everything. One of my patients, a 68-year-old woman, used to avoid eating at night for fear of gaining weight. After 6 weeks of adding Greek yogurt with flax seeds each evening, not only did she not gain weight, but she also slept better, experienced less morning joint pain, and most importantly, no longer felt shaky when getting out of bed in the morning. She smiled at me one day and said, "Doctor, I call it my magical yogurt jar now." If there's one simple piece of advice I could give every adult over 60, it would be this: start nourishing your muscles, even in your sleep. Because recovery doesn't just come from exercise, it comes from how kindly you feed your body every night. 4. Fatty fish, omega-3, and the secret to waking up your aging muscles. If there's a group of foods that's not only delicious, but also praised by both medical science and nutrition experts for their role in muscle recovery and anti-aging, it's fatty fish. Many of my senior patients are surprised when I tell them, by simply eating fatty fish twice a week, you can improve your muscle strength, mobility, and confidence in daily movement. So what exactly are fatty fish? And why are they so important, especially for people over 60? What are fatty fish? Fatty fish are fish rich in healthy fats, especially omega-3 fatty acids, including salmon, mackerel, tuna, sardines. These fish aren't just excellent sources of high-quality protein. They also contain vital compounds for aging bodies, especially EPA and DHA, two powerful omega-3s with well-documented health benefits for muscles and joints. Why is omega-3 so critical for older adults? One of the silent culprits behind muscle loss in seniors is chronic low-grade inflammation. While it often has no obvious symptoms, this hidden inflammation can slowly break down muscle tissue, cause joint and tendon pain, make it harder for the body to absorb and use dietary protein. Omega-3s are nature's anti-inflammatory medicine, absorbed directly from food without the need for pharmaceuticals. The science: fatty fish and muscle strength after 70. A major study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed over 1,500 adults aged 70 plus for 3 years. It found that those who ate fatty fish at least twice per week maintained better muscle mass, walked faster, and climbed stairs more easily than those who didn't. Even more impressive, omega-3s improve muscle sensitivity to protein, meaning the body makes better use of the protein you eat. That's a big deal, since after age 60, the body naturally becomes less responsive to protein without support like omega-3s. How to eat fatty fish the right way. Choose fresh or frozen fish, avoiding conversions high in sodium. Cook by grilling, baking, or lightly pan-searing. Avoid deep frying, as high heat destroys omega-3s. Aim for 2 to 3 servings per week, about 100 to 150 grams, 3.5 to 5 ounces per meal. What if you don't like fish? I've heard this often. Doctor, I can't stand the smell of fish. It makes me nauseous. In these cases, I usually recommend taking a high-quality fish oil supplement with your doctor's guidance, or getting omega-3s from plant-based sources like flax seeds, chia seeds, or walnuts. But be aware, plant omega-3s are less effective than those from fish. A real-life story: the elderly man and the grilled salmon. One of my 82-year-old patients slipped in the bathroom and lost confidence in walking. Along with physical therapy, I asked him to simply add grilled salmon to his meals twice a week, along with leafy greens and sweet potatoes. After 2 months, he came back and said, "I don't know what the fish is doing, but I feel stronger. My legs feel lighter. I don't wobble like before." I smiled. It wasn't magic. It was science and consistency. If you're in your 60s, 70s, or even beyond 80, don't treat fatty fish as a fancy meal for special occasions. Make it a regular companion, a quiet but powerful ally in your fight to maintain strength and independence. Because sometimes one well-timed bite of fish can give you back a steady, confident step. 5. Whole eggs: the yolk, leucine, and the secret to senior strength. Throughout my years working with seniors, I've seen a surprising amount of confusion about eggs. Some avoid them because of cholesterol fears. Others eat only the whites, thinking the yolk is too fatty. And many simply overlook their nutritional power. But the truth is very different. Eggs, especially whole eggs, are among the most affordable, complete, and muscle-friendly superfoods available for people over 60. What makes eggs special? Just one egg contains 6 grams of high-quality protein, all 9 essential amino acids, vitamin D, iron, selenium, and zinc. And most importantly, leucine, a key amino acid that helps trigger muscle building, especially in older adults. Leucine, the key to unlocking aging muscle. As we age, our bodies become less responsive to protein. The same amount of protein builds less muscle in a 70-year-old than in a 30-year-old. That's why seniors need more protein and higher leucine content to get the same effect. And whole eggs, not just the whites, are one of the best natural sources of leucine. A study from the University of Illinois showed seniors who ate whole eggs after exercise had a 40% greater muscle-building response compared to those who only ate egg whites. The yolk, not as scary as you've been told. For years, egg yolks were demonized due to their cholesterol content. But modern research tells a different story. Eggs do not raise bad cholesterol, LDL, in most healthy people. In fact, they can help increase good cholesterol, HDL. The yolk contains leucine, choline, vitamin D, and powerful antioxidants like lutein and zeaxanthin, critical for muscle, brain, and eye health. How to use eggs safely and smartly. 1 to 2 whole eggs per day is safe and beneficial for most healthy seniors. Always eat the whole egg, don't toss the yolk. Choose boiled, steamed, or lightly fried with minimal oil. Eat them at breakfast, when your body is primed to absorb and use nutrients efficiently. A real-life story. The breakfast that changed everything. One of my patients, a 75-year-old woman, often felt dizzy and weak in the mornings. Her usual breakfast? Sweetbread or plain porridge. I suggested she try 1 boiled egg each morning, along with a slice of whole grain bread or some steamed vegetables. 3 weeks later, she returned with a big smile and told me, "Now I feel so much steadier in the morning. I don't wobble when I get out of bed. Who knew an egg could make such a difference, doctor?" If you're looking for a simple, affordable, and powerful breakfast that can support your muscles and energize your whole day, whole eggs are a golden choice. Sometimes, senior strength doesn't come from a pill, but from one well-timed egg eaten the right way. 6. Nuts and seeds, the tiny warriors that protect your muscles daily. You can hold a handful of almonds, pumpkin seeds, walnuts, chia, or flax seeds in your palm, and yet within that tiny portion lies an incredible nutritional powerhouse, especially valuable for maintaining muscle strength, joint health, and overall well-being in older adults. I often call them the tiny warriors, quiet, consistent, and surprisingly powerful. Why are nuts and seeds essential for older adults? After age 60, several silent threats start to chip away at your muscle health. Deficiency in key micronutrients like magnesium, zinc, and vitamin E. Lack of clean, plant-based proteins. Declining hormone levels, especially testosterone, which affects muscle mass in both men and women. The good news? Nuts and seeds are nature's perfect answer to all of these needs. The golden nutrients inside nuts and seeds. Plant-based protein supports muscle repair and maintenance. Magnesium, essential for muscle contraction and energy production. Zinc helps naturally boost testosterone, even in older age. Vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant that protects muscle cells from damage. Healthy fats, omega-3 and omega-6, fight inflammation, support joints. Fiber improves digestion and nutrient absorption. Small but mighty, a snack with real muscle benefits. A study from Tufts University followed the diets of adults over 65 for 5 years. The results? Those with higher vitamin E intake from food, especially from nuts, experienced significantly less muscle loss, fewer falls, and better mobility than their peers. In short, a small handful of nuts today, a steadier step tomorrow. The best nuts and seeds for muscle health. Almonds, walnuts, cashews, pumpkin seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds. You don't need to eat them all. Just pick 2 to 3 favorites, rotate them, and stick with them daily. How to enjoy them wisely and effectively. Use them as a mid-morning or afternoon snack. Mix with Greek yogurt, oatmeal, or smoothies. Add to soups, salads, or porridge for natural richness. Tip: stick to about 20 to 30 grams per day, a small handful, since they are calorie-dense. A true story. The gentleman who swapped snacks for pumpkin seeds. One of my 67-year-old patients used to snack on salty crackers and processed chips every afternoon while watching TV. After some guidance, he switched to a daily handful of lightly roasted pumpkin seeds. 2 months later, not only had his blood pressure stabilized, but he also felt less knee fatigue when walking. He laughed and said, "I thought I was just snacking for fun, but turns out I was feeding my legs too." Not all small things are weak. Sometimes it's the smallest habits, like a handful of seeds each day, that quietly hold up the strength of aging muscles. 7. Beans and legumes. Plant-based proteins that nourish you from the inside out. When people think about building muscle in later life, they often picture meat, fish, and eggs. And yes, those are valuable. But there's a quiet hero that often goes unnoticed: Beans and legumes like black beans, lentils, chickpeas, red beans, and green peas. I often tell my senior patients, if you know how to eat beans the right way, they won't just make you strong on the outside, they'll nourish you from deep within. What makes beans and legumes so special? Beyond being excellent sources of plant-based protein, beans and legumes are rich in iron, supports oxygen delivery to muscle tissues. Potassium and magnesium aid muscle function and reduce fatigue. Soluble fiber feeds your gut's good bacteria. Resistant starch, a special carb that fights inflammation and helps balance blood sugar. The combination of fiber and protein in beans slows digestion, helping you feel full longer, keeps your blood sugar steady, and gives you sustained energy, all of which are crucial for older adults. Gut health, the often forgotten muscle ally. Modern research has revealed a powerful connection between gut health and muscle mass. Here's why it matters. A healthy gut boosts your ability to absorb proteins and minerals. Strong gut flora reduces systemic inflammation, which protects your muscles from wasting. And beans? They're a favorite food for good gut bacteria. What does the science say? A long-term study from the Human Nutrition Research Center at Tufts University found that older adults who consumed beans at least 4 times a week had greater endurance, maintained muscle mass longer, and were less prone to falls than those who ate beans rarely. The best legumes to eat regularly. Lentils, easy to digest, quick to cook, high in protein. Black beans, red beans, rich in antioxidants and fiber. Chickpeas, high in both protein and fiber. Green peas, naturally sweet and easy for beginners. How to eat beans the right way. Soak beans for 6 to 8 hours before cooking to reduce bloating and anti-nutrients. Cook with ginger or turmeric to aid digestion. Pair them with leafy greens, whole grains, or eggs to create complete meals. Aim for 3 to 4 servings per week, substituting them for some red meat. A true story, the soup that gave her strength. I once suggested a 70-year-old woman swap her heavy meat-based dinners for a simple lentil and vegetable soup with ginger. After just 5 weeks, she came back smiling and said her digestion had improved. She no longer felt bloated in the mornings. And best of all, "Doctor, I can finish my shopping trips without needing a break." Strength doesn't always come from fancy meals. Sometimes it's found in a warm, humble bowl of beans, cooked with care and intention. If you're looking to maintain strong muscles, steady energy, and protect your heart and gut, let beans become a regular guest in your kitchen. 8. Dark leafy greens. The deep green leaves that quietly strengthen your muscles and bones. You may have eaten spinach, kale, mustard greens, Swiss chard, or arugula all your life but never realized. These delicate green leaves, when eaten regularly and correctly, can become one of the most powerful allies for your muscles and joints after age 60. Many of my patients say, "Doctor, I just eat greens to help digestion. Nothing special, right?" And I always smile and gently explain. Without leafy greens, your body may struggle to make blood, repair muscle, stay balanced, and keep you walking strong. Let's explore why dark leafy greens deserve a foundational place on your senior plate. What counts as dark leafy greens? Spinach, kale, mustard greens, Swiss chard, arugula. These leaves are deep in color, often mildly bitter or neutral in taste, and grow close to the soil, but they're nutritional giants, richer than many fruits and root vegetables. Why are leafy greens great for muscles and joints? They're packed with natural nitrates converted to nitric oxide, improving blood flow to muscles. Magnesium, potassium, calcium support muscle contraction and bone strength. Vitamin K1, crucial for muscle protein synthesis and bone repair. Antioxidants, like lutein and beta-carotene, help protect against inflammation and tissue breakdown. What the research says, greens and stronger legs. A study from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden followed older adults who ate dark leafy greens daily and found those who consumed at least 1 cup per day had 11% more leg strength, better walking endurance, and less fatigue compared to those who ate fewer greens. Not bad for something so often dismissed as just a side dish. How to eat greens for best results. At least 2 cups per day, roughly 7 to 10 ounces or 200, 300 g. Lightly sautéed, steamed, or in soup. Don't overcook or you'll lose nutrients. Add them to morning smoothies or sauté with garlic and olive oil for dinner. Pair with eggs, fish, beans, or oats for maximum recovery support. A small story. The plate of greens that helped her knees. A 69-year-old woman once came to me complaining of sore knees and heavy legs when walking to the market. After discussing her diet, I learned she rarely ate vegetables, mostly rice and braised fish. I guided her to start adding spinach and red amaranth into 3 to 4 meals per week. Just under a month later, she returned smiling. "Doctor, I don't know what happened, but my legs feel lighter and I can stand longer without numbness. Maybe it's the greens." Don't underestimate leafy greens because they seem light. The aging body needs gentle, consistent support, and these thin green leaves deliver that better than many heavier foods. You might not feel the difference in a day, but in 30 days, your stamina, flexibility, and recovery will noticeably improve. 9. Olive oil, the good fat that fights inflammation and fuels muscle health from within. In my years of working with seniors, I always remind them, not all fats are bad. In fact, some fats don't just protect your heart. They help you preserve muscle, reduce inflammation, and live longer. Extra virgin olive oil is one of the clearest, most powerful examples of this truth. What is extra virgin olive oil? It's a type of oil cold pressed from fresh olives, without high heat or chemical processing. This method preserves nearly all of its valuable bioactive compounds, including polyphenol, powerful antioxidants, oleocanthal, a natural compound with anti-inflammatory effects similar to ibuprofen, monounsaturated fats, MUFA, supportive for heart, brain, hormones, and cellular function. Why is olive oil important for aging muscles? In older adults, a major hidden cause of muscle loss is chronic low-grade inflammation. When your body is constantly inflamed at a low level, muscle tissue breaks down slowly and silently. Recovery from activity is delayed. Protein absorption and usage becomes inefficient. Olive oil helps reduce inflammation, improve insulin sensitivity, and boost muscle cell metabolism, meaning every meal with olive oil becomes more effective for supporting your body's strength and recovery. The research says it all. A long-term study from the University of Navarra in Spain tracked seniors who consumed extra virgin olive oil daily and found they had better muscle strength, greater mobility, and a lower risk of frailty over 5 years compared to those who didn't use olive oil regularly. Even more, olive oil supports the production of anabolic hormones like testosterone and growth hormone, both essential for maintaining muscle mass, even in later life. How to use olive oil wisely and effectively. 2 to 3 teaspoons per day, roughly 20 to 30 milliliters, is ideal. Use with low-heat cooking or drizzle over salads, soups, or warm dishes after cooking. Avoid high-heat frying, which destroys its healthy polyphenol. Choose high-quality extra virgin olive oil, stored in dark glass bottles and from reputable sources. A real-life story, soft food, strong legs. A 78-year-old man living alone came to me with joint stiffness, weak hands, and fatigue. His meals were mostly plain rice and dried fish. I suggested he switch to baked salmon and start drizzling 1 spoon of olive oil on his vegetables daily. 6 weeks later, he returned to the clinic, carrying his own grocery bags, no longer needing help from his son. With a big smile, he said, "My meals are softer now, but I feel stronger." Isn't that strange? Sometimes, you don't need to change your whole world. Just replace 1 spoon of harmful fat with 1 spoon of healing fat. Your body will thank you with strength, resilience, and gentle recovery day by day. 10. Berries, the anti-aging fruits that keep your muscles young and resilient. If there's a food group that could be called nature's sweet little gift, it's definitely berries, including strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. Not only are they delicious and easy to enjoy, but they're also packed with powerful antioxidants that help protect your muscles from aging reduce inflammation, and boost post-activity recovery, all essential for anyone over 60 wanting to stay strong and flexible. Aging muscles and the rust from within. As we grow older, our muscle cells naturally begin to age and weaken due to buildup of free radicals, which damage tissues, decreased internal antioxidant production, chronic low-grade inflammation that silently weakens muscle fibers, slower muscle repair after physical activity. Berries help counter all of this. They neutralize free radicals, fight inflammation, boost circulation, and, most importantly, preserve the structure of your muscle fibers, like a soft yet powerful shield against time. What makes berries so powerful? Anthocyanins and polyphenol, strong antioxidants that slow muscle aging. Vitamin C supports collagen production, the foundation of muscles and tendons. Soluble fiber feeds gut bacteria and improves protein absorption. Low glycemic index, GI, keeps blood sugar stable, great for prediabetics and seniors. What the science says. A study from Tufts University found that older adults who ate berries 3 to 5 times per week had faster muscle recovery, better flexibility, and significantly less post-activity soreness compared to those who didn't. How to eat berries the right way. Aim for 1 cup, about 3.5 to 5 ounces, per day, fresh or frozen. Eat them on their own or mix in a Greek yogurt, oatmeal, or morning smoothies. A perfect dessert replacement for sugary sweets or high GI fruits. A gentle story. The smoothie that soothed her legs. One of my 73-year-old patients often woke up with sore calves, even though she wasn't doing heavy work. After ruling out medical causes, I suggested a simple blueberry plus chia seed plus Greek yogurt smoothie each morning for 2 weeks. She called me later and said, "Doctor, I don't know if it's the smoothie or magic, but my legs feel light. No more holding the wall to walk around the house." Sometimes anti-aging doesn't come in pills or expensive collagen powders. It comes in small spoons of red, purple, and blue fruits packed with strength from nature. Let every bite of berries be a gentle whisper against aging, helping your muscles stay strong, flexible, and vibrant, sweetly and naturally. 11. Lean red meat. High-quality animal protein to maintain senior strength. Many older patients have asked me, "Doctor, should I still eat beef at my age? I'm worried about fat and cholesterol." My answer is always clear. If you choose the right cuts and eat them wisely, lean red meat is one of the most powerful nutritional tools you have to maintain muscle strength as you age. Why is lean red meat so valuable? Unlike processed meats or fatty cuts, lean red meat provides high-quality protein with all 9 essential amino acids your body needs to build and preserve lean muscle mass, support muscle recovery after activity, prevent age-related muscle loss, sarcopenia, supply heme iron, the most absorbable form of iron for muscle and brain health, leucine and creatine, a muscle-building duo, lean cuts of red meat, especially tenderloin, top round, sirloin, and flank steak, are naturally rich in leucine and creatine, 2 powerful nutrients shown to activate the mTOR anabolic pathway, which stimulates muscle protein synthesis, improve strength, endurance, and recovery, even in older adults. Even if you don't exercise, eating leucine and creatine-rich foods can help you retain the muscle you already have. A powerful study. At McMaster University in Canada, researchers found that seniors who ate lean red meat 2 to 3 times per week combined with light physical activity had significantly higher muscle gains than those who consumed the same amount of protein from plant sources. Red meat is not just a tasty meal. It's a strategic ally in the fight against muscle loss. How to eat red meat wisely and safely. Choose lean cuts like sirloin, top round, flank, or tenderloin. Cook by grilling, boiling, or light pan searing. Avoid deep frying or heavily salted stews. Eat 2 to 3 times per week, about 3.5 to 5 ounces, 150 g per serving. Pair with leafy greens, olive oil, or nuts for a complete anti-inflammatory meal. Important notes. If you have a history of heart disease or high cholesterol, Consult your doctor to adjust your intake. Avoid eating red meat every day. Rotate with fish, eggs, and legumes for balance. A true story. The red meat that saved his legs. A 76-year-old man had lost significant thigh muscle after a long hospital stay post-surgery. He was barely eating, avoiding red meat entirely out of fear it would overwork his kidneys. I suggested he start with lean pan-seared beef twice a week and gently resume light morning walks. Just 6 weeks later, he could stand up from a chair unassisted, something that had felt impossible before. He looked at me and said, "I thought my legs were gone for good. Turns out, all I needed was the right fuel." Lean red meat is not your enemy, if you understand it. It's a key part of a smart, intentional strategy to preserve muscle mass in your golden years, so you don't just survive, but thrive with strength and independence. 12. Whey protein. The most bioavailable protein for aging muscles. Not everyone gets enough protein through food alone, especially older adults. Loss of appetite, digestive issues, or weight concerns often lead seniors to eat less meat and fish, even though their protein needs actually increase with age. This is where whey protein becomes incredibly valuable. What is whey protein? Whey is the pure protein extracted from milk during cheese production, then processed and dried into a powder. Its key advantages include very fast absorption rate, high leucine content, which powerfully stimulates muscle growth, low in fat and sugar, convenient and easy to mix. For older adults, who often have slower digestion and reduced protein utilization, whey provides a targeted, efficient solution to meet their daily needs. Why should seniors consider whey? After age 60, the body doesn't respond to protein as effectively, so faster, higher quality sources are needed. Whey contains bioactive peptides that improve blood flow, reduce inflammation, and enhance insulin sensitivity. It's easy to consume and gentle on digestion, ideal for those with poor appetite, weakness, or during recovery. What the research says. A study at McMaster University, Canada, found older adults who took 20-30 g of whey protein immediately after exercise retained over 40% more muscle mass than those who used other protein sources. Even without exercise, regular whey intake was shown to improve strength, balance, and physical performance significantly. How to use whey effectively. Recommended dose, 20-30 g per day. Best time, after light activity or with a low-protein breakfast. Mix with unsweetened milk, water, smoothies, or Greek yogurt. Choose products that are unsweetened, free from artificial sweeteners, and quality certified. A real-life story. A morning shake and steadier steps. A 70-year-old man, though eating 3 meals a day, still felt weak, slow, and frequently tripped. I suggested he start drinking a whey shake after his morning walk, along with some oats and chia seeds. A month later, he returned and said, "I don't know what's in that shake, but now I get up from my chair without wobbling. I feel solid." Whey protein isn't a miracle drug, but it is a smart, science-backed, and safe way to support muscle maintenance, energy, and confidence in everyday life, especially for those who want to stay active and independent as they age. 13. Oats, the humble grain that sustains your muscles over time. When people think of building muscle, they often picture meat, eggs, or dairy. But there's one food that might not be as rich in protein or as flashy, but plays a crucial role in sustaining energy, supporting digestion, and helping your body maintain muscle indirectly. Oats. What are oats? Oats are a whole grain that contains slow-digesting carbohydrates, provides steady energy for hours. Plant-based protein, about 5-6 g per 100 g. Soluble fiber, especially beta-glucan, feeds good gut bacteria and lowers inflammation. Magnesium, iron, phosphorus, B vitamins support muscle recovery and metabolism. Why are oats important for older adults? They offer stable energy, reducing fatigue during daily activities. They improve gut health, helping the body absorb other muscle-supporting nutrients. They lower systemic inflammation, which contributes to age-related muscle loss. They help manage blood sugar, especially helpful for pre-diabetics or those with type 2 diabetes. How to combine oats for muscle support. Best eaten at breakfast when the body needs fuel for the day. Combine with whey protein, Greek yogurt, chia seeds, and berries, a complete super breakfast for energy and recovery. Use in savory porridge with eggs, beans, or greens, or in homemade energy bars. A study from the University of Sao Paulo, Brazil showed seniors who ate more whole grains, especially oats, had better physical strength, retained more muscle mass, and maintained independence longer than those who didn't. A closing story, a small bowl, a strong result. A 72-year-old woman once told me she felt exhausted after Tai Chi classes, even though she ate regularly. Her breakfast? White bread and tea. After switching to oats with yogurt and flax seeds, just 10 days later, she told me, "Now I can walk home after class instead of calling a motorbike." That little oat bowl is stronger than it looks. Not every muscle-supporting food has to be expensive, exotic, or complicated. Sometimes, just one well-prepared bowl of oats each morning is enough to change your energy, strength, and confidence for the day ahead. Conclusion. At this age, your meals nourish more than your body. They nourish your spirit. As we step into our 60s and beyond, the body begins to change in quiet ways. Each morning, your legs might feel just a little weaker. Your hands may tremble slightly. Your steps less certain. Many people say, "I'm just getting old. This is normal." But the truth is, aging doesn't mean surrendering. Aging doesn't mean becoming weaker. Aging means we must eat more wisely, live more gently, and love our bodies more intentionally than ever before. The 13 foods we've walked through together, from Greek yogurt, fatty fish, whole eggs, nuts, seeds, beans, and leafy greens, to olive oil, berries, lean red meat, whey protein, and oats, are not miracle cures. They are daily allies, quiet companions, gentle powerhouses. They won't change you overnight, but over time, they rebuild you, bit by bit, meal by meal. Every bite you take is a step towards steadiness. A whey protein shake helps you rise from your chair with ease. A bowl of oats gives you enough energy to walk the market without stopping. A spoon of olive oil soothes aching knees. A whole egg protects the muscles that keep you standing. A handful of seeds keeps your hands strong enough to pour tea without a tremble. You don't have to change everything at once. Just add one new habit a week. Listen to your body. Adjust slowly. Most importantly, choose to care for yourself, not out of fear but out of love. Your muscles may soften, but your will can grow stronger. And sometimes, the most radical form of self-respect is preparing a meal that says, "I still matter. I'm still living, fully, not just existing." If you're still reading this, I want you to hear this clearly. You deserve a strong body, a sharp mind, a peaceful, dignified life in your later years. Not fancy, not perfect, just steady, intentional. Yours, Yellowheart. May your next meal be more than nourishment. May it be a reminder. You are not fading. You are still becoming.